For instance, that stood in the way of this new market. More important, they couldn't have done it without the involvement of Fannie Mae and its sibling, Freddie Mac, the Federal Home Land Mortgage Corporation. The complicated interplay that's involved between Wall Street and these two strange companies, a story of alliance and feelings of dependency and resentments, gave rise to a mortgage-backed securities market that was far more dysfunctional than anyone realized at the time, and out of that dysfunction grew the beginnings of the crisis of the of 2008, almost since the phrase "the American Dream" was coined in the early 1930s. It has been synonymous with ownership in a way that isn't true in most other countries. Home ownership is something that the vast majority of Americans aspire to. It suggests upward mobility, opportunity, stakes in sometimes that matters. Historically, owning a home has just been about taking possession of an appreciating asset or even having a roof over one's head. It's also been a statement about values. Not surprisingly, government policy has long encouraged home homeownership. The home mortgage interest in deduction is a classic example. So is the 30 years fixed mortgage, which is started in only one other country, Denmark, and is designed to allow middle class families to afford monthly mortgage payments for decades. Federal law gave in the SML industry a small interest rate advantage over the banking industry. The housing differential disadvantage was called. All of these policies and ongoing bipartisan support criticism them was political heresy. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were also important agents of government ownership policy. They too were insulted from criticism. Fannie Mae, the older of the two, was born during the Great Depressions. Its original role was to buy up mortgages that the Veterans Administration and the Federal Housing Administration were intended to spinning up capital to allow for more governmental insured loans to meet. In one night, 268, Fannie was split into two companies. One nicknamed May continued buying up government insured loans and remained fairly a part of the government. Fannie, however, was allowed to do several new things. It was allowed to buy conventional mortgage ones that had not been insured by the government, and it was always the issue securities backed by mortgage it had warranted. In the process, Fanny became a very odd creature. All government enterprise, it had a very vaguely defined social made from Congress to make housing more available to low and middle income Americans. All private enterprise, it had shareholders, a board of director, and the structure of a typical corporation. At about the same time, Congress created Freddie Mac to buy up mortgages from the no, third industry. Again, the idea was that this purchase would free up capital, allowing the is and else to make more mortgage until 1989 when Freddie Mac joined Fannie Mae as a publicly traded company. Freddie was actually owned by the industry and was overseen by the Federal Home Loan Bank Board, which regulated the is and else. People in Washington called Fannie and Freddie the GSAs, which stood for Government Spread Enterprise. Here's a surprising fact. It was the government, not Wall Street, that first secured more than mortgage. Ginny May come first saying securities beginning in 1970 that consisted of LFHA and VA loans and quarantined the payment of principal and interest. A year later, doing so, no. A year later, Freddie Mac issued the first mortgage-backed securities using conventional mortgage, also with principal and interest warranted. In doing so, it was taking on the risk that the borrower might default while transferring the interest rate rates from the SLs to a third party investor. Son Freddie was using Wall Street to market its securities, volume grew slowly. It was not a huge success. Through the 30 years fixed mortgage may seem simple to a borrower. Mortgage come full of complex risks for investors. 30 years borrowers might fall on hard times 30 years after all is a long time. In the space of the 3 decades, not only is it likely that interest rates will change, but who knows? The borrowers might fall on hard times and default. In addition, mortgages come with something called prepayment risk because borrowers have the right to prepare their mortgage. Investors can be sure that the cash flow from the mortgage will stay at the level where expecting the prepayment rights diminish the value of the bond. Ginny and Freddie's securities remove the default risk, but nothing about any of these other risks. They simply distributed the cash flows from the pool of mortgage on a pro rata basis. Whatever happened after that, well, that was the Imster problem. When Wall Street got into the act, it focused on devising securities that will appeal to a much broader group of investors and create for more demand that than a Guinea or Freddie bond. Parts of the answer come from taking carving up the bond according to different grades of risk. Investors found this appealing because different trades could be geared to meet the particular needs of different investors. For instance, you could create what come to be known as tripped securities. One trip paid only interest, another only principal. If interest rates declined and everyone refinanced, the interest only strips could be worthless. But if rates rose, investors would make a nice profit. Sure enough, parceling out rights into fashion gave mortgage-backed securities enormous appeal to a wide variety of investors from a